Oopsie. Hi, Shuba.
Hey, Arlene,
We're almost twins.
right?
Yeah, we're both wearing gold. We're thinking money.
I
Valerie,
know.
what did you get the gold memo?
Right? We need the
Yes,
energy. You know what? There is no sun today, so we probably need a little bit of brightness around.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I saw the cloud today. I'm like, okay, I need some bright colors to pep me up.
I know it's kind of nutty. You know what? I took my dog. Did I tell you I took my dogs to Sanborn Park on Sunday?
Oh, you did? Nice. That's exciting.
There wasn't a lot of snow. It's a great place to go. Do you ever hike there?
No, I haven't. You
It's
said
in
sun.
Sanborn. It's in Saratoga.
Hmm.
It's right around where the Mountain Winery is.
Okay, I think I've done the Wardle. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. So I've done the 30-mile hike from Saratoga to Wardle Beach.
Oh, wow.
But I know this area where it's like at the foothills, like, the winery and the foothills. So yeah,
Yes. So I went with my two nieces and we brought my dogs, and
nice.
there wasn't a lot of snow and it was kind of slushy and there was a ton of mud. So my one dog tolerated it. The other one loved it. She was filthy dirty, but she's running all around and licking the snow and, running in the mud. It's awesome.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah, it was
incredible.
fun.
I'm glad that you had so much fun there.
Oh yeah, and I would go again just to walk around. It's really beautiful. I hadn't been there before.
I see.
Um, but it was very fun. It was very fun. And it started raining. Um, and had it been colder, I think it would have snowed. But it wasn't that cold. Um, but it was very lovely. It was very lovely there.
I see.
Oh, hi Valerie. Nisha, what are you wearing today?
Hi.
Nisha wears gold. She looks good in yellow.
She has a family along Orange, I guess.
Yes.
Hi everyone. Hi Arlene. Hi Sabah. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Hi everyone. We'll give a couple of minutes for all the participants to join. It's 1 minute or 12. So I'm sure they might be clicking on the link to join. Thank you. Okay, so we'll wait for 1 more minute. In the meantime, hi Deepa, hi Karen, hi Manjushri, hi Rajalakshmi, hi Sara, Savitri, Seema, Subhan, Valerie. Hi, Manjushri. Manjushri, I'm yet to respond to your message. I did see that. I'll definitely connect to you anytime soon this
Sure.
day.
Thank you, Nisha. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, Deepam. Nice to see you. Okay, 1 more minute, and I think we'll begin with our today's Power Hour session. Usually a lot of participants join 5 minutes here and there. Some have their kids to pick up from school, some duties to cover up before they take out this time. You have it on their calendar, I believe, but okay. Right, we are seeing the increase in participants. Hi everyone. Hi Leah, Raj Lakshmi, Sarah. Okay. For any one of you might have friends who want to join the Power link, you can just share them the Zoom link, which is on our site, and they'll be able to join. I'll just put it in chat as well quickly. I'm sure you have it, but anyone willing to offer some more help? Okay. Arlene, do you think we can get started?
I do. Go ahead.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right, it gives me immense pleasure again to see you all for today's Power Hour session. I'd like to welcome everyone for today's Power Hour session again. And as you know, our Power Hour sessions are, a platform to get introduced with each other. We have guest speakers every alternate Tuesdays. We try to. And I think everyone can go on mute. In case you can check your mute button and put it on mute, and you can unmute yourself or raise your hands to ask any questions. Thank you. So as I was saying, we do guide you with some practical tips of how you can structure your resume, how to update your LinkedIn profile, what are some maybe some common fears or common things that you are trying to come back in your workforce, how you can elevate in your pitch towards while interviewing, a lot of things. And I'm sure not everything I can summarize, but I'm definitely happy to connect. My team also post the Power Hour session to help you in general. We did speak with a lot of participants post our Power Hour session. We were happy to help, and I hope they were satisfied, but it's a journey and we are here to support you. So with any further ado, I'd like to again welcome all of you and would like to give it to Arlene to introduce today's guest speaker and welcome all of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming to Power Hour. I am seeing some names that I've seen before, and so I'm very excited about that. And if you're new and this is your first time, you are absolutely in for a treat. I'm so excited for today's Power Hour for a couple of reasons. Professionally wise, we have an expert recruiter, technical recruiter, who is going to talk to you all about highlighting your skills in a market right now, or a recruiting market right now, where highlighting your skills is so very key and very important. And especially if you're a returner, right? You can't, the first job on your resume might be from 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 8 months ago. But whatever it is, we are all in a market now where we need to be able to highlight those skills so that the recruiters see how awesome you all are, and we start getting those calls for interviews. And so I'm so that's why I'm excited for the topic of today, but I'm also personally excited because I'm so excited to be reconnecting with a longtime colleague of mine from Shubha. It was 6, 7, 8, 7 years ago that you and I worked together.
Yeah, that's about right. 8 years ago,
Yes.
something like that.
So Shubha and I worked together many years ago, and we shared when we were both with different companies, and we shared probably the most challenging hiring company that is a very big search engine in probably the world. And so Shubha was a master recruiter at putting people to work at said search engine. So you all are in amazing hands with a great recruiter who is going to give you some great tips. But before we do that, I'm going to let her do some introductions of herself. But I know that for a lot of what Women Back to Work does, we do place a lot of engineers. And so when Shubha, in her recruiting at LinkedIn, which has been her last gig for the past year and a half, that's what she was recruiting for. So you all really have an expert and a fabulous person, first and foremost, and a fabulous recruiter and really an industry expert. So without further ado, Shubha, we thank you for your time and your expertise, sharing it with our returner community. And I'm going to hand it on over to you. And I do want to share for those of you who are on the call, Shubha is willing to answer your questions. We would love for them to be related to what she's talking about. Not like how to get a job at LinkedIn, because that's not why she's here today. She's here to, how do you highlight your skills on your resume, maybe on your LinkedIn profile, whatever, so that, you know, when you're applying to jobs, your resume stands out. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and she has graciously offered to answer them as they are popping up. So the floor is yours. The Zoom call is yours.
Thank you, Arlene. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are from. I'm Shubha. Thank you so much for such a wonderful, great introduction, Arlene, and I'm super excited to be here. So this topic personally is super relevant at this time of the world, as well as it's super relevant. It personally resonates well with me because I just completed a job rotation program here at LinkedIn, and I find this topic insanely useful. So I'm going to go to a quick slideshow here. Again, this is the topic that we would be talking about, and this is my family. Again, you can see I have a daughter who is 8 months old. I wish 8 years, but it's my 8 months old, and that's our dog, Pippin. He's a Vizsla, super high energy dog. Being a full-time professional and a new mom, what I'm realizing is it's definitely very hard to kind of challenging and navigating both of them and striking a balance. There are a lot of skills that I keep learning every single day and unlearning a lot of old habits. And as you would definitely agree with me that it's learning itself is a skill on its own. And on the professional front, as Arlene has mentioned, I have over 12 plus years of recruiting experience. I've done some career change as well. I started my career in nonprofit and then pivoted to HR back in India. And when I moved here, did a certification course, started hiring. I've hired for startup companies, agencies, the world's largest search engine, so-called, done consulting work. And recently I'm with LinkedIn, right? So a lot of changes and ups and downs and so many crazy times. So as I mentioned, the skills first approach on hiring is something that I've been seeing as a trend. And this is a project that I worked recently with LinkedIn and connects well close to home. I wanted to share those learnings with you all here. Before I start, I wanted to start with some icebreakers. You can see some ice snow. I'm from Bay Area and we haven't seen snow ever. This is not a snow region, but last weekend we had some snow. And this is Mission Peak, one of the tallest peaks here in the Bay Area. So how many of you are excited to probably hike or go on top of a mountain or excited about snow in general. Feel free to annotate or feel free to put them in chat. 1 being low, 10 being high. Feel free to, if you're comfortable annotating, you can kind of mark closer to 10 or closer to 1, whichever you feel like. I'll give it like a 30 seconds. So if you kind of are familiar with Zoom, there is a drop-down box on the top that should say annotate, and that's kind of how you annotate. All right, some people are in the middle, some are super excited. So wonderful, we have some mixed audience here. Moving on to the next thing here. What skills did you learn during pandemic? Again, we are behind pandemic at this point, the world has opened up, but definitely we had been learning a lot of skills during pandemic, shutdown, and like literally not interacting with people, not going out. I'm sure each of you would have learned a lot of new things, explored about yourself. If you wanted to put it in chat or unmute yourself, love to hear your voices.
Ooh, there are some good ones. Or do you want me to read them out loud?
That would be great. I'm not able to see the responses, unfortunately.
Oh, no worries at all.
On the chat.
So we had ocean swimming, go Karen. Hiking and snow is top. Oh, that was Manchuri saying that she loves the snow, but ocean swimming, multitasking, patience, yes. Well, focus on health and wellness, stock trading and the market. That's a good one. Relationship building, hiking, self-care and fitness. Nandini, that was her maternity leave.
Love it.
Yep. Time to restart careers, cooking, go Melanie. Adapting to change, yeah.
Data science, stock trading. There are so many new skills as we can, again, sky is the end here. Definitely, there are a lot of things that we end up learning as individuals, as human beings. So these are amazing. The point that I wanted to drive home is these are really relevant skills, and that's really important to what you do, who you are as a person. So these are incredible. Kudos to you all. So skills first hiring. Why is it essentially relevant and important? We are in this precarious place in the industry where there is one set of industry that's laying off people, but there are totally another set of industry that's calling out. And recently in the January 2023, the Department of Labor report says that there are 500,000 plus jobs that's been added. Historically, we are in the low unemployment rate. That's kind of been true during pandemic, actually starting middle of 2020 onwards, this kind of been true. It's very hard to find people. I can tell you as recruiter, we had been having some crazy time, all right? And LinkedIn has seen quite a lot of shift in terms of job posting. The requirement for degree has relaxed quite a bit. It's relaxed from 15% to 20% so far. And the candidates and company are a lot more open for finding out innovative ways to identify candidates and to assess candidates. The old set of ways where right degree from the right college, right pedigree, and the right connection doesn't really talk about some of the key indicators. Those are essentially not the relevant indicators. It's in fact weak indicators on what really matters, the candidate's ability to do the job. So as I mentioned, employers are a lot more open for building resilient team and diverse team, which they really care about. and more importantly, to avoid group thinking, right? And the only way to kind of do that, or most relevant way to do that, is to have the skills first approach. You might ask me, you are saying, hey, 500 plus 1,000 jobs. Now, where are those jobs, right? And there are so many, we are still keep hearing. There are so many number of people getting laid off, and all these massive companies laying off people. In fact, I'm one of the victims, to be honest. I recently got laid off from LinkedIn, but nonetheless, I'm still employed probably until end of the week. However, there are a lot of jobs that's being created in other industries. We can definitely talk about it in the upcoming slides, but wanted to see if there are any questions at this point. All right, moving on. So this is featured thing. I mean, I guess you can kind of see the career path and the journey. This has been shared from LinkedIn's The Path, the newsletter. You know, when we graduate, we would kind of think that, hey, how I wish I graduate from school, go to internship, go to an associate degree, manager, and be an executive. How many of us in this group are essentially has gone through this kind of a career growth and transition? I mean, I would be surprised if I come across a single person that has this linear career trajectory. It's just a dream, but this is kind of how in reality it kind of looks like, right? I mean, you graduate and then you kind of say, hey, I'm taking up a job, and then laid off, or probably somebody would go abroad and study, or somebody would say, hey, I don't want to be a business analyst anymore. I want to be a project manager, right? I mean, there are so many career paths that one could take. And how many of us can relate to this? Feel free to raise your hands. Yeah, this is such a powerful message that again, this is not necessarily one way to kind of address our career. There are multiple ways to deal with our career, right? And the aspiration, because our interest keeps changing as we grow as human beings, our passion keeps changing and evolving as we get exposed to multiple things. So this is not a straightforward path. And at the end of the day, what lies is the learnings that we have taken and some of the skills that we are building as individuals. So let's talk about some of these personas here. So again, we have Meet Kelly. So Kelly is our business analyst, right? And she has taken a career break to attend to her child and an ailing mom. And, you know, now she's ready to get back to work. She has taken a break of about 4 years. I heard Harleen talk about people that are between jobs for about 8 years versus 8 months. You know, there is a huge spectrum. Now, Kelly's case, she has taken a break of 4 years. How can we help Kelly to get back to job? And similarly, Zola, she is a high-performing upcoming software engineer. She just graduated. And however, she recently got laid off with the tech industry layoff that's coming up. So how can we essentially, you know, she's at the place where she has spent a lot of money in her master's degree and she has to get back to work ASAP. And there is Mira, who is a successful cashier, and she's looking to explore jobs in the corporate world. Where do somebody start like this, right? So there are so many Kellys and Zolas and Miras amongst us who are looking for career transition, or who's looking for a break in career and now getting back to work, or essentially want to upgrade their skills or take a pivot. So let's see. Now, the ways
Shubha, we
that...
do have a hand up. If
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that.
Sorry. So is Swapna, do you have a question about before Shubha started talking about Kelly, Zola, and Mira that you want to share or ask?
No, no, Arlene, I do not have any question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, your hand was up. That's okay.
Okay.
I think that was from people that I asked people to raise hands. Maybe that didn't go. perhaps. So again, you can kind of see the one message that I can say is like there are so many transferable skills, right? Do you know that there are over 70% skill sets overlap between a cashier and a customer success representative, right? Some of the skills such as like customer satisfaction, sales, teamwork, time management, those are like super relevant. And again, those are super overlapping in that sense. In fact, recently at LinkedIn last December, I helped hire a candidate, right? I mean, for LinkedIn. So this candidate had taken about a year and a half break to take care of their son. And the candidate has moved from Bay Area to Oregon. And they were looking for completely a different set of career path. They had worked in more on the data center, network engineering type of work. And the role that was open was to do with hardware asset management in a data center. This candidate and I had connected about 6 months ago. At that time, we didn't really have any relevant opportunity. The candidate kept an eye open and we were interacting on and off. However, when this role came up, this candidate had a lot more relevant skills, but it's not necessarily an exact fit for the job because they didn't really have an exact set of experience. However, they created a resume such that can really talk about the type of skills, and they were able to talk to the interviewers and demonstrate and essentially prepare well for the interview, of course. They did a right job of networking and creating some of the skills that they can really relate to, and essentially ended up getting a job, right? So there are so many of us, again, trying to say, hey, which paths to take, but some of the skills are to kind of find out to, hey, where do I find relevant skills? What can I bring to the table? And being able to keep your eyes and ears open. Similarly, for homemakers and caregivers, there are so many skills that we can relate to, right? Whether it is prioritization or planning or execution or stakeholder management. You as caregiver, if you're a parent of a child, you deal with like daycare people or necessarily doctors or different set of people, and you plan and do a lot of budgeting and analysis and say, hey, where can I cut costs today so I can essentially save for future, right? I mean, what if you end up dropping the child like 30 minutes late to school? It doesn't work. The child would be crying, or picking up the child late from school. You have to pay extra money at school for daycare, for example. So there are a lot of skills that comes into play, which are super relevant for day-to-day work that the employer is looking for. How can you translate those skills and make it more for your advantage in this sense, right? And there are so many companies, like again for LinkedIn, which does like skill analysis and making sure that there are top 3 skill sets that's been identified for each job for internal mobility or for career growth for that matter, right? And it's definitely been skills being the new currency. Google, for example, does something called as Project Gig, where you spend 20% of time as an employee to learn new skills, right? So again, skills is the currency and skills is the new moment. And again, if let's say if you're employed, your job is not going to be the same 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. There are new expectations. Whether you like it or not, the jobs are going to change on you. Business expectations are changing on you. So there are so many skill sets that's essentially one would gain. Based on the data, 20% or 25% of job that has changed since 2015, and it's expected to actually double by 2027. So these are huge numbers if you think about it, and huge set of changes that's happening around us, whether we like it or not. And again, with that said, adding more skills under your belt will definitely take you a long way. Any questions before we move on? All right, Arlene, I think you're probably catching those questions, right? If there are in the chat.
I am, and I don't have any right now.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. So now what actions can we take in order to be successful? Can you believe, based on January data, 60% of folks that got laid off during the last few months really were able to get employment in 6 weeks. Now, whether, if you forget everything else, there is one learning that I want you to take out of today's presentation. Try to keep your eyes and ears open outside of tech industry. I know everybody wants to work for the Googles and Apples and Facebook and, Microsoft of the world, but you have to start somewhere. And, other industries still have software engineering job, business analyst job, programming job, or, project management jobs. There are so many other industries that are still hiring. All the other industries, the 500 plus jobs, they could be in the service industry, they could be in the retail industry, or they could be in, travel industry or what have you, now that the travel is open. So there are so many industries that are still hiring. So kind of wanted to have foot in the door, try to see where you can find relevant opportunities. And one thing that really helps me when I look for a job opportunity is something called, I call it as the master or a mother resume, where there are so many things that you would have done as an individual in your career. I write down about like 30 or 40 bullet points under each job, and I categorize them saying, hey, project management, training and development, mentoring, what have you. So I have them all in the master resume. And it's almost like kind of cooking recipe, right? Let's say if I wanted to make a tomato soup today, all I need is tomato, probably cream and salt and pepper and, all the ingredients. So I try to take what is relevant that's needed for the job, and I put them and make it as a targeted resume. Or you can make, for people that are transitioning roles, one thing to kind of consider to do is functional resume or a combination resume. I'm definitely happy to connect with you all later as well to review resumes or give you some feedback. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and happy to, help out. Or I can also connect you with other potential recruiters. There are so many friends of mine that are in the industry that could help you as well. So definitely happy to help in that sense. And the other thing that you could potentially do as part of action items, next step is to network and connect. Like the candidate that I mentioned that got job, one of the reasons that he got a job is to build that connection and network and being able to do the resume right and, being able to talk about it. I mean, all these topics are so long. I'm just kind of touching the tips of the iceberg here. There are, like, for example, preparation of interview. I can really talk about it for a day long. There are so many webinars and so many training that kind of goes on. Each company does interviewing so differently. Each skill sets requires different type of interview, right? So it's important for you to really understand those nuances. And that are people that are taking a break, getting back to work, consider part-time job if you can. Consider contract roles or pro bono work. There are so many organizations that offers pro bono work. So definitely try those kind of little things. Really helps you a long way. At the end of the day, if an employer is just not looking for the right pedigree, rather they are looking for the right skill sets. So keep that in mind and have the confidence in yourself. So moving on, there are some additional resources that I can call out here. So there is, for upskilling, you can take advantage of LinkedIn Learning. They have amazing resources there. If you have LinkedIn Premium, you can access LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn, if you know anybody that works at LinkedIn, they usually, if you're an employee, they give about 10 passes for each employee to share. It's more like a gift. So if you can connect with LinkedIn Recruiter or other people at LinkedIn, they can give you like LinkedIn Premium. Unfortunately, mine ran out. But definitely there are people that you can connect and relate and ask for LinkedIn Premium seats. There is Coursera, there is Udemy. There are Opportunity at Work, which is a nonprofit organization that really helps in providing opportunity. And for immigrants and refugees that are new to the country, there is an organization called as Upwardly Global, which is a nonprofit organization that helps in new immigrants that has work permits. There is a Mom Project, and there is pro bono work. Taproot Foundation is a huge pro bono work. And of course, kudos to Arlene and the team. You have Women Back to Work where you can definitely find resources how to prepare for interview, and they help you place as well. So there's so many resources that you can take advantage of. With that said, I'm open for any Q&A, and here is my LinkedIn connection. Feel free to scan on your phone and feel free to reach out and connect with me. I'm happy to essentially help you out with interview or any resume reviews, and open for any Q&A.
A question for you. After I got laid off, a former colleague of mine had suggested paying for the LinkedIn, oh my gosh, now I'm not going to be able to remember the premium subscription, right? So if someone were to do that for, let's say, while they're, you're giving yourself 6 months or 8 months or whatever it is to find a job, and you pay for that LinkedIn premium, right? Which gives you better access to the tool. Does that allow you to take the courses for free?
I think so. There is an opportunity for you to take advantage of all the courses. Besides being able to connect with people, it definitely gives you advantage of taking courses.
And then how, just in your, just given your background as this great IT recruiter, how do you decide like which courses to take? Like, let's say someone was out for 3 years, raising their children or taking care of their family or whatever it is, and they want to get back into work and they want to upskill or refresh. How do they know? Because there's a ton of classes out there. How do they pick?
So LinkedIn, great question. It depends on a little bit. Again, I can start saying, do a little bit of soul searching, but more importantly, there is a tool called as LinkedIn has this career planning growth tool, what you kind of wanted to do next. And then the AI helps you to suggest some of the trainings that you can take depending on what you want to do next.
Great.
I'm not 100% familiar with Coursera or Udemy, but essentially those are, again, additional tools that you can take advantage of as well. If somebody else has additional experience, feel free to unmute yourself. There are so many people comes with various background. What has worked for you all? I'd love to hear.
A question has popped up, and I have my 2 cents on this, but I want to go to you first, Shubha, because again, you're an active senior IT recruiter. Pam has asked, any advice for women of a certain age that don't want to retire? And you know what, Pam, not even don't want to retire. There's a lot of people who can't retire right now. We got to keep on working, right? But it's hard when your resume shows your age. So Shubha, what would you advise someone that if a recruiter is looking at their resume, they don't say, oh gosh, that person's got 4 years until retirement, right? How do we hide our age, but not hide our experience?
I mean, it's legally, I can say that theoretically, you cannot discriminate people, but reality, there is definitely, these kind of concerns are bound to happen. And as we kind of progress in age, one thing that could help is just highlighting what is relevant for the role and highlighting last 10 years of a work experience. So you don't really have to go beyond 10 years. The usual norm is last 10 years of work experience. That probably would help you to, essentially keep your A game there.
Thank you.
And what are your thoughts, or anybody else has kind of seen anything else? I'd love to kind of hear, how do you think? I know my manager, Melanie, is there. So she's an expert as well.
Well, before go, Melanie, go.
Overwhelmed to see you in this capacity. I'm so proud of you. You're a wealth of information for all of us. Just to chime in on some of the cool things that you're talking about today. I met with a career coach yesterday, so I highly recommend tapping into those. Someone like Shubha could definitely be that for you. My career coach told me yesterday to do a Nirvana list and write all those skills out that you're talking about that are transferable that we don't realize. See, I'm a mom too, so seeing all of the time management and the budgeting, and it's amazing the skills that we realize that we actually have. And then he said to go onto Indeed. I can't believe I'm like totally going off LinkedIn, but go onto Indeed and like do some research and plug in some of those skills and start to see what roles you're seeing, what industries. There might be things you haven't even thought of yet, right? Like she's talking about hospitality, and who knows, like healthcare is still booming, right? The 20% of our population in the US will be boomers and will be in, 65 plus in the coming years. So healthcare is not going anywhere. As you start to look at these companies that you want to target, coming up with your brand statement, what's the value that you want to bring? And then I myself, with 25 years of experience, I've been doing something crazy and just listing my past 15 years of experience. Why? Because I'll tell you, when you're looking for a job, if you're in it, filling out all those applications and the Workday systems is like overwhelming. And sometimes I just leave the work that I feel like is my past 10 plus years. Usually in a background check, they only check your past 7 years anyways. So it's up to you. If you feel like the work you did early career is relevant and you really want to talk about that progression, you can summarize it. But you're doing such a great job, Shubhi. I'm so grateful to be here.
Thank you, Mel. That's wonderful advice.
Valerie has an awesome question, but I just want to agree with the two of you that, someone were coming to me saying, what should I do on my resume? And this actually came up a couple of power hours ago. The last 10 to 15 years is all you need. And someone doesn't need a 7-page resume, right? We got to find a way to like succinct it all and just go back 10, 15 years. And if going back 10 years, you're knocking off a job, that's okay. That's okay. Valerie's asked, we hear a lot about what we should be doing, but do you have any advice on what we should not be doing? I love this question.
Do not doubt yourself. The imposter syndrome, or definitely self-doubt, is such a bad evil. It's like a crab that pulls you down. So do not doubt yourself. There are people that have done this, and you can do this, and we can all do this together, right? So definitely, that's like a first top of the mind for me. I keep waking up saying, hey, what happened to me at LinkedIn? I was such a successful recruiter, but I got laid off. It happened to all of us at some point. When you look back 2 years later, this is going to be like, hey, we have put us through this, right? A friend of mine pinged me saying, hey, you would think back 2 years later and you would say, hey, we have all gone through this and we have put ourselves through this, and I'm sure we'll all come out of this stronger. So the key is not to self-doubt. The key is not to get into the rabbit hole, right? And kind of go cuckoo about things. So those are like top of the mind for me.
I love
Hi,
that.
Subha. I have a couple questions pertaining to LinkedIn specifically. So we did talk about the past 10 years on resumes. What about on your LinkedIn profile? I have recommendations from positions starting at 2005 that would be great for people to see, and I have a lot of connections, and I don't know if deleting that experience serves me or hurts me, and if it would affect any of those connections or recommendations, because I don't know how it's linked in, in the back end.
Yeah, so great question there. I don't have a direct answer for you. If you have like years of experience, recommendations are still super valuable in my mind. I would not take it off, even if it's 2000 recommended at 2000, but it's still relevant to the job. But when you're sending a resume to the employer, keeping it the last 10 to 15 years is probably a recommended norm. But again, the skill sets, at the end of the day, some of the skill sets that we are not using for the last 10 years, it still kind of get a little rusty, right? I mean,
Right.
It may not be super relevant in that sense. So refreshing that skill sets. Again, study shows that if a software engineer, if they upskill themselves, they are bound to get 8 times of reach out from the recruiters more than somebody that has not touched LinkedIn resume. So that's like a data right there that's been published by LinkedIn. Now, that said, if you're asking about like a recommendation about 20 years ago, if you find it relevant, you can still have it on your profile. To me, all recommendations are that talks about you as a person and how valuable you are.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Would you
For
be able
sure.
to talk about keywords on LinkedIn? I think somebody mentioned that in the last power hour that we might be able to understand how to utilize keywords a little bit better.
Yeah, so the keywords, for example, again, skill sets and keywords, usually recruiters go these days, when you kind of look for a job, we go and like look for some of the keywords like, hey, if it's a engineer, software engineer looking for, let's say, Python or Java or other languages, for example. So putting that on your LinkedIn profile really helps you pop up. And then adding those skills on your skills section usually helps your profile to come up as well. Do you want me to show how to do that? We can definitely I'm happy to connect with you offline and kind of show you how to edit those things as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I have a couple other questions that I can ask you offline just to give other people a chance to ask questions. But I had questions about making an open to work post through LinkedIn and utilizing hashtags for position titles. So I can connect with you and ask you.
For sure. Let's definitely do that. Those are super, by the way, those are important because again, some of the posts when you're between jobs, having an hashtag really helps you to bump your post up, and definitely open to work kind of helps people to share to the world that you're looking for opportunities. And if you're a content contributor, especially on LinkedIn, people are going to look you up and look up on your profile. So I would recommend adding some relevant content on LinkedIn as well. I see a couple
Shubha,
of
there's one question in the chat that I want to read out because I like this one. Should we apply to jobs that are a week old? Or even older for that matter? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in this market, it's going to be a little hard not to say no. Each job is inundated with applicants. Again, people are getting laid off and people are still looking. But having said that, I would still apply. And more importantly, try to find a connection within the company that you could connect with that could really bump your application up the list.
And I will share that when I got laid off, and I think this happens to a lot of us, we start getting hesitant. Like you don't want to connect with someone and say, hey, do you mind sending my resume or whatever? Because we think we're going to bother somebody. And I will share, and I had hesitation. And I'm in this business of recruiting. But I remember several folks that one gal that I had worked with, I reached out to her. I hadn't talked to her in like 15 years, but her company had a job that I was interested in. And I'm like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but immediately she replied, yes, of course, Arlene, I'm more than happy to do that. So I think as a job seeker, we are hesitant, right? And we don't want to bug people. And we think kind of what Shubha said earlier, that we feel like, oh, maybe we're not good enough for the job. Yes, you are. And absolutely, people want to help you. People are more than happy to introduce you or send your resume or give you a recommendation. I know it's painful to ask and we hate to ask because even as women, we don't want to bother anybody, right? But do it. And I promise you, for all the times I reached out, people came back and absolutely, Arlene, how can I help you? What else can I do for you? It's amazing. So let's see. Uma, you have your hand up. What is your question?
Hello, everyone. This is Uma here. My question is like when we are applying from LinkedIn, so it usually takes us to a Workday page to apply in the company website. So what do we add for where are we currently working at, right? Whenever that field comes, I tend to skip that. Like, I just wanted to know, like, what is the best approach of filling in the details, like what we are currently doing or working on?
Yeah, you could say career break, or you could potentially say some of the courses that you're taking, or sabbatical. Again, a lot of companies have started appreciating Again, I see comments saying upskilling. There are
Mhm.
certain things that you could potentially do. There are companies that are acknowledging career gaps.
Okay.
And one of those days where people are like, hey, this person has like 5 years gap. I'm not going to look at their profile. That's not the case.
Mhm.
It is a competitive market. I'm not going to say otherwise. However, how positively are you able to say, hey, I've done pro bono work, or I've done contract
Okay.
work, or I've done those kind of things. So if you can highlight those aspects, that's kind of where pro bono comes a really stronger play to consider.
Mhm.
They may not really pay you, but they still gives you an opportunity to demonstrate yourself.
Mhm. I just doubt that if it's getting filtered by the ATS system, because most of the job that I applied and filled in the fields with career break, I don't get a positive response from them. It's every time like the application is closed or not currently looking, doesn't match the description. That's what I get. So I'm just thinking like if there's something that should be done when we list the career break, like the company that we work for, all those fields, is there any recommended template that we could use?
I can't think of anything other than top of my head, but let me think through it, or I can do some research. But I'm happy to listen to anybody that has anybody done anything that has worked for you all. But one thing I can say is connection really helps you in this case, Uma, where again, if you're looking to re-enter your career, if you really go through any, like for LinkedIn for us, we could have like hundreds and hundreds of applicants, but there is a referral comes in, we have to review the applicant no matter what. Each company has referral rules. So you definitely, again, you may not still get an opportunity to interview, but your resume at least would be reviewed. You can definitely get that much guaranteed if you have some referrals or recommendations to go through.
Thank you so much,
Shubha-
Subha, for your inputs. Yeah, I definitely appreciate the work that you're doing here. Thank you so much for taking my question.
For sure.
Shubha, here's a good question, and I love this because we want you to answer as your technical recruiter self. And I'm assuming, Arati, you're meaning like if the message through a tool like LinkedIn, what message would get a technical recruiter's attention? So Shubha, if someone was reaching out to you or another recruiter at another company, what can we say that you think like, I'm going to go check out I'm going to look at this resume, or I'm going to look at the profile?
Honestly, it depends on the role that I'm hiring.
Okay.
And there is not, one solution for all, right? Let's like, so one shirt doesn't fit all, right? So it's like, depending on the role that the recruiter is hiring, that's kind of where your research skills comes into play. Dig a little bit deeper, which recruiter is hiring for which role, and try to connect with the recruiter if you could. So these days you still can kind of say who's the poster that's kind of usually get displayed on LinkedIn. That's one of the possibility. Or see there is an employee that currently works that, somebody friends of friends, even then they can kind of provide an introduction. To Arlene's point earlier, if you ask for help, usually human mentality, we want to help each other. And the other person usually feels content, gratified by helping you. So definitely go and seek for help and, try to get that connection out. So to your original question, there is not one formula where the recruiter is going to look at, but the key is to highlight some of the skills and relevant work that you have done related to the job description. Read the job description really well, try to understand what they're asking for, and highlight some of the things that you have done relevant to the role. That's definitely would attract any good recruiters' eyes, and they would definitely look at your profile.
Thank you. Shivanka, do you have a question?
Hi, good evening. Yes, I will have a question, like, because I do have a career break. Actually, it's like around 10 years. So I would like to enter into the technical industry right now. So I'm looking for how I could frame my resume, because I have been searching for the job with my with career back. As Shubha was mentioning, my resume also includes the career break with volunteer work, and also the upskilling part. So I was explaining what I was doing in the upskilling part. But though I have those parts, I feel like I'm not getting the right jobs or whatever field I am applying for. Like if it is like an entry level developer, I feel that it is not. We are unfortunately not taking the candidate for this position, and I'm getting the message like that. So how I can like create my resume that so that I can enter the industry, because I always keep myself like updated with the skills. But though I have that, I should get the opportunity, right? I should be getting the opportunity of the interview to showcase my talent. So how to reach that point?
Great question. And it's a pain as well, to be honest.
It's a loaded one,
Uh,
right?
It's a hard one. So having said that, when I can tell you, like usually when people kind of do career break or when you're getting back, usually if you wanted to start one step lower, it's not ideal, but that usually works as, for example, if you are a senior software engineer, start probably targeting for software engineer roles. And then 6 months down the road, the company really knows your skill sets and performance, and they really promote you. Taking one step back in order to grow 2 steps forward could be an approach that could work.
Yeah, of course. I was like having 2 years experience already, but I still like I'm like looking for entry level only. Even it can be a junior level or entry level. I'm applying only for the post like that. I didn't go for any mid or mid, even for mid level. So I was thinking like how my resume could be updated, so it clicks the interviewer to check whether she has the potential for the interview. As you said, I have some connections in the LinkedIn also, where and I was wondering how I can connect with them. So what kind of message I can tell them that I have applied for this position, or how I can have a conversation with them through in LinkedIn?
Yeah, so again, there are so many questions there, right? You're essentially like resume, and then there are questions about essentially messaging and how to connect, how to follow up. Each of these topics can have how to kind of prepare for interview. Each of these topics are so deep, but one thing I can say is when you can kind of keep track of the roles through a spreadsheet, for example, and see what roles are relevant and who do you know in the company. And that really can help you stay organized. And doing your resume, we can definitely take it offline, and I can try and see what helps I can provide to make your resume look more relevant to the roles that you're applying for. You can also send me some sample job descriptions that you're applying for, so we can make more targeted resume as well.
Okay, yeah, I will definitely connect with you in LinkedIn. Okay, I think someone from Michelle, she's getting connected with me from the women's WBW. Is it right? Michelle is the team.
So I want to just share with everybody on the call that we have a team of dedicated women back to work recruiters, as well as Acquire Recruiters, which is our parent company. And any of our recruiters will help anyone on this call or not on this call with their resume. So please, I think at the very beginning, Nisha or actually Manrali sent our email address. So please, everyone, feel free to send us your resume. It might take us a day or two to get back to you, especially days after Power Hour, but we'd be very happy to help you with your resume. So do we have?
I joined late. Could you please put that email ID again on the chat? I joined a little late. Looks like I missed it.
Yep, Nisha, will
thank you.
do you mind doing that, Nisha?
I just did. Thank you.
So I'd love to find out if anyone else has any specific questions for Shubha about, like highlighting your skills and some of the other things that she mentioned.
So
I do want to echo while we're waiting for hands raised that, and Karen, I see your hand. I'm going to grab you next. So some of the things that Shubha had mentioned is, applying for jobs that might be a step lower than what you did before your year's break. And I know sometimes that might feel like we're eating a bit of humble pie, but I guarantee you, having been in this industry for a very long time, it is not. It is a great way, as she said, to kind of get into a company, let them see how awesome you are. And then once you're in a company, You get to see the other open roles as they're opening, or you're seeing another department or your own department growing, and they're going to be hiring more. So it allows you the opportunity to see some other opportunities. And again, it lets you kind of brush up on your skills, get back in your groove, and really highlight what you can do. Second thing that I want to echo Shubha on, and she and I both come from a contract world many, many years ago. She's been working in-house forever now, but working as a contractor for a company like Acrya, and I will do a little shameless promotion here for my own company, is an awesome way to, one, get back to work if you're a returner, or two, if you're just looking for work, if you've been laid off or you wanted to take a year to travel and you just wanted to take a break, work as a contractor. It's a great way to get into some of these big companies where the hiring process is, 14 or 15 interviews. And for all of you who are engineers, they're all technical interviews, right? Where you're whiteboarding and doing all that crazy stuff. Gives you an opportunity to find out if you like the company that you're contracting at. Maybe you love it, maybe you don't. So, you work a 6-month or a 12-month contract, get your skills brushed up, see if you like that environment. If you like it, great, because there's going to be more opportunity for you at that company. And if you don't, finish your contract and move on to the next one. So I will say that, and although, I'm probably a little biased, but I think that both Shubha and I have a dozen stories of someone who accepted a 6-month contract, because it sounded kind of cool, and they ended up landing at the company of their dreams, and they're still there, and they've been promoted 18 times, and they've got stock options and all that great stuff. So really, it's a great way to go. And I will always say that. So Karen, you have a question for Shubha, and we do have, 3 minutes left. Oh goodness, I should say. But Karen, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, and I saw somebody else put it in the chat too. I was just going to ask how the same question about the cover letter, and when should we, and maybe when should we not include a cover letter?
That's great, and I missed that, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. If I were to be completely honest, not too many recruiters are going to see the cover letter beyond a point. So the cover letter could be useful when you're going through a referral, where you exactly want to make the cover letter more targeted. Generic cover letter saying who you are and not repeating what's there on your resume probably is not going to be an ideal thing. If you're imagine you writing a personal letter, and then essentially it's not like a personal letter, but essentially saying, hey, this is kind of why you need to consider me for the role, and kind of giving a summary in that sense would be more relevant, and try to connect with the individual as opposed to kind of broadcasting just your experience.
Okay.
So Shubha, do you recommend, I know people that will spend 2 hours on their cover letter, on each cover letter. So do you suggest a cover letter or not really?
I would say it's more an email in the form where you're trying to say, hey, here you are, but spending too much time on the cover letter, not too many people are actually going to look at it, because remember, you're spending only 30 minutes, not 30 minutes, rather a minute for a resume. So they seldom are going to go through your cover letter as well. So if you were to invest your time, highlight your skills on a resume and focus on your resume more than the cover letter is probably my personal opinion. Again, this is Shubha's personal opinion based on what I've seen from others.
I am going to echo your personal opinion.
So specifically, if I were to ask, if I have a friend that has a friend that's working at a company that I'm interested in, forwarding an email with a short introduction and the cover letter, and the resume is enough. I don't need to include.
No, the traditional, even the objective statement on a resume, I kind of find it too redundant. I don't encourage folks to have like an objective statement. Like you could have your own objective. 2 years down the road, you can be a software engineer. 2 years down the road, you want to be a product manager. That's your personal goal. You don't want to kind of put your objective there on your resume. What resume should focus on is your skill sets and what you could bring to the table.
Thank you.
For sure.
Are there other questions specifically about what Shubha was talking about today? I know we're at 1 o'clock and this poor girl's on the clock right now. But anything, any other questions specifically to what she's talked about? There's one other question that I thought was really good, Shubha, and I'd love to hear your expert response. What I think a number of people on this call have probably applied to jobs and they said, oh, you're overqualified, or you're overqualified. We don't want you quitting in 6 months from now, or we don't want to spend the time hiring you because we know you'll quit in a year. This isn't really what you want to be doing. How, and assuming that the person is not going to do that, how do we best tackle those objections that we're getting?
Yeah. For example, one of the, things that could come up is like, hey, if I'm kind of going to apply from tech industry, in fact, we were chatting the other day, like, hey, I'm applying from tech industry to non-tech industry. And like, hey, why are you pivoting? And if the tech industry is going to come back, would you go back, right? I mean, that's like a common objection that could come if I were to go and apply. One way is to say that, what is your current state in your life? Like what kind of, status that essentially that you are in currently, in the sense, hey, I'm at the stage in my life where stability is much more important. I'm not necessarily looking for technical role. I'm looking for a lot more stable job that I don't want to get laid off in the next 3 years or 2 years, right? I am looking for longevity here. So trying to kind of connect with what means to you and what's relevant for you and dealing with the communicating that message would be a much better deal, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So we are at 1:03 and I'm sure we could sit and talk to Shubha until 5 o'clock today, but she is working and I want to be respectful. So Shubha, one last question I want to ask, can you give us Valerie's asked the question in the chat, how do you sell your transferable skills best? So can you give us your top 3 on how do we best highlight our transferable skills?
That's a lovely question, very relevant. So again, I will kind of talk about what is relevant for the role. There is a skill section that you can put on the top of the resume that says, these are the skills that I would bring to the table. It could be like hard skills, such as like computer skills or technology skills, or it could be soft skills. So highlight those skill sets on your resume. And then being able to elaborate along when you're talking about each of the jobs, that would really be helpful. That's kind of called as usually the functional resume or a hybrid resume. So you can definitely, depending on which style that you choose, you can definitely highlight those sets of things, especially if you're taking a break or if you're pivoting your career from, let's say, a business analyst to a computer engineer. I'm just making this up. So what skills that you can bring to the table and what jobs that you're applying for and what are your top 3 skill sets that's relevant for the job. You kind of wanted to be always mindful what roles that you're applying for, and you wanted to tweak it to the roles that you're applying for. And those are the top skills.
Awesome. So with that, again, I really just want to be respectful to Shubha because we are over, and I knew you'd be awesome. You were awesome. You are awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. You can all link in with Shubha because she, of course, is on LinkedIn. And just for those of you, for some of your specific questions, please feel free to reach out to the WBW team as well. I don't want 50 people asking Shubha to look at your resume, although she has offered, because we can do that for you. But please link in with her. And I don't even know what to say other than Shubha, you were awesome. This was a ton of really great information. And we appreciate your time. And of course because you did share that you were unfortunately part of the LinkedIn layoff. And although that saddened me, sometimes people and you're like, that girl's going to land on her feet in a heartbeat. And you are so wonderful that I know you will. But we all, on behalf of everyone on the call, we want to wish you the very best of luck. And we appreciate you. And that's it. So everyone, thank you all so much for coming to Power Hour today. And you all have a great rest of your day.
Yeah,
I
I just
have a
wanted to
quick
take it.
question.
Thank you. And I'm sure do not lose your confidence. You will land in your dream job. It's just going to be the grit and time, patience. So it's going to happen sooner or later. We are all in this together. Good luck, everyone. And thank you so much for Arlene and the team for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
Thank you, Sabha. Thank you, everyone. See you next. Bye-bye.